Yeah, we got a lot to get into. Juan Soto, the rumors are heating up. David Pingalore apparently stated, well, he did state that Juan Soto is a New York Met. A lot of people are saying Juan Soto is a New York Met. What should we make of that? Also, we got to talk Knicks because the Knicks are playing phenomenal offense right now. We're going to talk about the Jets, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson. According to Connor Hughes, they're frustrated with the offense. No surprise there, really. But what does this mean for Aaron Rodgers' future and the Jets' future overall? New York Giants are going to have a top pick in the draft this year. We all know that with the way the season's going. What are they going to do with Joe Schoen? What are they going to do with Brian Daboll? What are they going to do at quarterback? Are they going to draft Shedeur Sanders? Are they going to draft Cam Ward? What are they going to do? We're going to talk about that too. But to start off the show, the James Nolan podcast, first off, thank you to the 573 watching right now. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And let's start off this show hot because we got the hot stove heating up right now. Juan Soto. Is he a New York Met? I don't think he is. David Pingalore. Now, listen, he definitely has a storied career, I guess, out in L.A. And, he was with Scott Boras tonight. He was there with the Blake Snell signing. So, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it fully. I don't think we should buy in unless it's Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, or even Anthony DiComo, a Mets reporter, maybe even Andy Martino of SNY. But I think it's going to be Jeff Passan that breaks the story, one. You can even throw John Heyman in there to break the story for sure. But I don't think David Pingalore, listen, he was with Scott Boras. There's no doubt about it. He was with Scott Boras tonight. Maybe he knows, but I just don't think Juan Soto is a Met. Here's what I think happened. I think Scott Boras leaked. He's been leaking everything. We saw it last week. Apparently, he signed with the Boston Red Sox like 15 times last week. And guess what? Nothing came out of that. So I don't want to buy in to Juan Soto as a New York Met right now, and I don't think you should either. I am actually a little worried about these reports because what it seems to me like Scott Boras is doing. Now, listen, am I saying the Mets are off the table? No. He is definitely narrowing down his teams. MLB.com reported that. He is narrowing down his teams right now. Apparently, it's the Mets, it's the Dodgers, it's the Yankees, and it's the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. I'm not surprised there. Those teams have been on him since the start of the offseason. If I'm going to narrow it down, I think it's going to be the Mets or the Yankees. I've been saying it all offseason. I think Soto will end up in New York, back with the Yankees, and I think he's a perfect fit with the Yankees. If you're a Yankee fan and you don't want Juan Soto and you have questions about Juan Soto, I think you're stupid because we saw what Juan Soto can do with the Yankees. So he's a perfect fit with the Yankees. We already know that. He's a perfect fit with every team, specifically the Yankees and the Mets. Now, listen, the Dodgers, they don't need him. We all know that. They would obviously love to have him. It would even further their chances at going back-to-back as World Series champions. I mean, having a lineup of Soto, Betts, Freeman, Ohtani. Maybe they get Teoscar Hernandez back, who I think is going to be the dark horse free agent all year long. But yeah, I just don't think Soto is a New York Met right now. I don't think we should buy into these reports. I think they're false reports. And here's what I'm making of it right now. I think Boras is leaking this to kind of increase the price that the Yankees are going to offer. Because I think ultimately, I've said it all off season, Juan Soto, in my opinion, I think Juan Soto wants to be a New York Yankee again. And I think this is Scott Boras saying, hey, the Mets, I think what he did with the Red Sox, he leaked reports maybe, and that drove up the price for everybody that wants him. Because we all know Steve Cohen is a lot of talk. And I'll say it right now, if Steve Cohen doesn't get Juan Soto, he's all talk. I'll say it right off the bat. Since this guy bought the team, he's been talking, I'm going to get this guy, I'm going to get that, or at least we think that because he has all this money. I mean, realistically, what has Steve Cohen done as an owner so far? Yes. Has he been a much better owner than the Wilpons? 100,000%. But he's all talk right now. Yeah, he got Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. But who, outside of those two washed up pitchers, what has Cohen done? Who has he signed? Yes, he made a huge trade for Francisco Lindor and locked him up. Yes, he re-signed Brandon Nimmo. Yes, he re-signed Edwin Diaz. But who has he brought here out of free agency by digging deep into his pockets and saying, you're the guy I want? We see it all the time. He wants paintings, he gets paintings. He wants houses, he gets houses. Whatever Steve Cohen wants, he gets. So if you really want Juan Soto, go get Juan Soto. Now, I'm not saying Steve Cohen is going to be a failure if he doesn't get Juan Soto, but I will say he's all talk. I will say that. I don't think not getting Juan Soto impedes the Mets' chances of winning a World Series in the near future. I don't think it impedes their chances of making the postseason again next year. But what I do think is Juan Soto would be a great fit with the Mets. But what I think is happening with these reports, I think it's Scott Boras saying, hey, Mets got the highest offer on the table right now. He wants to be in the Bronx. So Yankees, this is your chance to match this offer. I think we get a notification from Jeff Passan by the end of this week. I would say by Friday. I think by Friday we'll know for sure where Juan Soto is playing baseball in 2025. And I really do hope it's with my Mets. Obviously, I hope it's with my Mets. But I do think that the Yankees are still in on him. I think that those two are the favorites right now. I don't think the Dodgers are going to go all in on it. I don't think they're going to defer money again. Because realistically, if they keep deferring money, well, what are they going to do in 15, 20 years? Because there's going to be, hopefully, I would assume that there's still great MLB players like Soto, like Ohtani. Well, maybe not like Ohtani, that's pitching at a lights out level and hitting at a lights out level. But we're still going to see Sotos and Judges and Mookie Bettses in the near future. So I don't think that the Dodgers are just going to defer money again because they don't want to kind of fault themselves down the road. They don't. So I don't think he's going to the Dodgers. I don't think he's going to Toronto. So if I'm narrowing it down to 3 teams, in my opinion, I'm saying it's either Boston, it's either the Yankees, or it's the Mets. And I've been saying it all offseason. I think it's going to be the Yankees and the Mets. And I think the Mets are going to get him if they're the highest bidder. And that's up to Steve Cohen. But what this report tells me is that Steve Cohen has made the highest offer. He has made the highest offer right now. And that's Scott Boras saying, hey, he's going to sign. He's going to sign because he has the highest offer right now. You got a few days because the winter meetings are coming up. Juan Soto wants to be on a team because let's be real, guys. He does want to win too. He likes to win. With the Padres, what did he do? He got to the playoffs. With the Nationals, what did he do? He won a World Series. What did he do with the Yankees in his first year? Got to the World Series. He likes to win. As much as everybody wants to say, oh, he loves money, he wants money, he wants that. Everybody wants money. But at the end of the day, Juan Soto also wants to win. So if he signs by the end of this week, it opens up the door for whatever team he signs with to go make the trades necessary to build around him, to go make those other big splash free agency moves, such as Pete Alonso, who I think with or without Soto, the Mets need Pete Alonso. Maybe they shy away from Pete Alonso. Maybe Pete Alonso goes to the Cubs. Maybe he goes to the Yankees. We see in these reports all over that Alonso, Cubs want him, Yankees want him. Teams do need first baseman, but I think with or without Soto, Mets do need Alonso. But Soto to the Mets, I mean, what these reports tell me from, what's his name again? David Pingalore, who was with Scott Boras tonight. I think it's Boras leaking it out there that, hey, the Mets are going to get him unless anybody else coughs it up. So I think by Friday, we'll know for sure if Juan Soto is a New York Met or if he's going to play elsewhere. That's what I'll say on these rumors right now. And another thing I do want to say is my guy CPNY, CP Mets and Knicks. Shout out to him. Make sure you go check out his channel. He's got a lot of great coverage on the Mets, a lot of great coverage on the Knicks. So if you're a Mets or a Knicks fan, make sure you go check him out. He tweeted something that I found really interesting, and I don't think he would tweet this without knowing something. I'm not saying he's a baseball reporter, insider, but he wouldn't just say this. He said Soto to the Mets. So that's where kind of my mind, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid saying, you know what, if CP thinks Soto's a Met, maybe he is. Maybe he is. Now, like I said before, he's not an insider. He's not a reporter, but he's also not a guy to just make stuff up and throw stuff out there for clickbait. So make sure if you do like the Knicks and you do like the Mets, make sure you go check out his channel. He's got great stuff over there. But let's get back on topic, man. Soto, I think he would be a perfect fit with the Yankees, obviously, for a lot of reasons. We just saw him last year take them to the World Series with Aaron Judge. But we're talking about the Mets with Soto right now. Why is he a perfect fit with the Mets? 1, he's 26 years old. 2, Mark Vientos is 25. And that's what a lot of people I don't think are talking about. If you have Soto and Vientos for the next decade, assuming the Mets lock up Vientos long-term, as long as what he did last year and in the playoffs continues, I think we get Vientos and Soto locked up for 10 plus years. Oh, that sets you up for success. Those are 2 cornerstone pieces in your lineup. And then factor in, you got Francisco Lindor in his prime. He's coming off his best season of his career, arguably. And then maybe you get, I said, with or without Soto, Mets need Pete Alonso. Here's why. Look at the Dodgers. Look at their powerhouse lineup. Look at the Yankees this year. Yes, we got by the Phillies, but at the same time, they have a powerhouse lineup. And where have they been the past few years? Every single year? The playoffs, NL East champs. You need offense. So that's why I think no matter what happens with Soto, Mets need Alonso. And Alonso, it's hard to pass up on a guy who hits 40 home runs and 100 plus RBIs every year. So that's what I was saying, Alonso. But Soto, I mean, he would be a great fit in this lineup. You're thinking about a lineup with or without Alonso. If they get Soto. Think about this. You got Lindor leading off, probably Soto batting second, Vientos batting 3. If you get Alonso, you put him in the 4 hole, but you still got Alonso. Maybe you get Alonso too. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Alvarez. Everybody likes to crap on Jeff McNeil, but he had a great second half. He had the 3rd highest OPS in the second half for the Mets. So he's still not a scrub. You got Jeff McNeil, Ronnie Mauricio coming off an injury. Luis Angel Acuna looked great in his short stint with the Mets last year. Mets got guys, man. So you add Soto to that lineup. That lineup that when we play the Dodgers, if you add Soto to the lineup, I think the Mets have a very good opportunity to get to the World Series if they had Soto. So that's why I think he makes perfect sense. And he's 26 years old. I don't care what it takes. Make him the highest paid player in baseball. That's what Steve Cohen came here to do, right? He didn't come here to sign if you're going to go out there and you're going to give Max Scherzer $40 million a year, you're going to give Justin Verlander $40 million a year at their age, and you don't even offer Shohei Ohtani anything last offseason, and you're gearing up for Juan Soto. You've said it in press conferences. You want him, right? Go get him. Go get him. Make it happen. So right now, from these reports, what I think they got the highest offer on the table, and I think it's not done. I don't think it's done. I think it's just kind of Boris putting it out there that, hey, Mets got the highest offer on the table right now. He's putting pressure on other teams. So I don't think Soto necessarily has the Mets at the top of his list, but he does because they have money. They have a great city. They're in a big market. Cohen wants to be a big market team. He said it after the playoffs. He wants to change the narrative around the Mets. He did that by bringing in Francisco Lindor. He did that by re-signing Brandon Nimmo and Edwin Diaz, retaining stars that play for the Mets. Now go get us a star like Juan Soto. Because look at Juan Soto's numbers. He's not even in the prime of his career, which is crazy. You can say all you want. Oh, he's a subpar defender. He's not great on the base paths. Okay. And how do you win in baseball? You score runs. And Juan Soto is probably a top 3 hitter in baseball, top 3 most consistent hitter in baseball. He does it in the playoffs and he does it in the regular season, and he barely gets injured. This year he played 157 games. In 2023, 162 games. In 2022, 153. 2021, 151. Don't count the COVID year, but he still played 47 out of the 60. 2019, 150. And then his rookie year played 116. And you look at his numbers this year, I mean, he probably had the second best year of his career outside of 2020, but that was a shortened season. So full season wise, I think Soto had the best year of his career. 989 OPS, 129 walks, 109 RBIs, 41 home runs, which is a career high for him. 128 runs scored, which he led the league in baseball with. And then even bounce it back to 2023, led the league in baseball in games played with 162, like I said before. 132 walks from him, which led the league in baseball. He's a career 285 hitter. He hit 288 last year, 275 in 2023. 2022, not too great, 242 batting average, but he still led the league in walks with 135, had an on-base percentage of 401, had an OPS of 853. So his worst year, he hit 242, drove in 62 runs, and had 27 home runs. That's his worst year. And then now I think we're seeing, like I said before, he's not even in his prime yet. He's playing at age 26 next year. Prime for baseball players like 28 to 32. Get this guy locked up. Do whatever you can to get him, Steve Cohen, because I think he's a perfect fit with the Mets. He's a perfect fit with the Mets. Like I said before, a lineup with Lindor and Soto and Vientos, you got to get Alonso back. if you get Soto. I still think he is a must re-sign. I don't want Christian Walker. I don't want to make a trade. Maybe you could sell me on the Vlad. You could definitely sell me on a Vladdy trade, but I don't think the Blue Jays are trading Vladdy. I don't, especially since they're in on Juan Soto. They want to win too. They feel like they can win. I mean, Bo Bichette had a down year this year, but he's still a great shortstop, probably a top 5 shortstop. Blue Jays are a good team. They're not trading Vladdy. So the Mets' best shot right now is Juan Soto. And the best part is you don't have to give anything up. All you have to do is spend money. And the Mets have a lot of money coming off. They had a lot of money come off the books this offseason. They got a lot of money to spend. I like what they're doing with the rotation. I mean, you just saw sign Frankie Montas. I do like that. They're interested in making Clay Holmes a starter and signing him. I'm kind of shocked at that, but at the same time, Keith of Shane Sons was talking about it all offseason that he thinks Clay Holmes has starter stuff. Make sure you go check out Shane Sons podcast too, by the way. But Clay Holmes is a starter. Maybe he gets in that pitching lab and we get something out of him. But I do like Frankie Montas. I love that signing. So I don't think we need to go out there and make big splashes on pitchers. But hitters, that's what wins you games. You score runs. And like I said before, you got teams like the Dodgers, you got to get by. You got teams like the Phillies, you got to get by. Phillies got Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. I mean, they're loaded. Rhys Hoskins. I mean, JT Realmuto, Trey Turner. Phillies are loaded too. Yes, we got buy-in, but you had Juan Soto to that lineup, and we're right up there with them in the NL East. Right up there. Yeah, maybe they got us on edging the pitching staff a little bit, especially with Zach Wheeler. But, I mean, you had Juan Soto to this lineup. You're right up there with the best offenses in the NL, and that's including the Dodgers. Vientos, Lindor, and Soto as your big three going up against Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani. I think that can do it. I don't think necessarily on paper it's better. But Francisco Lindor coming off a career year. Soto hasn't even entered his prime. Vientos, I mean, he looks great. He looks like a stud. So go get Soto. Do what you can do. But let's read some of these X posts. David Pingalore. This is what he said earlier. This is the exact tweet that got the Mets fans going nuts. 3 hours ago, inquiring Juan Soto minds, wants to know, I'm being told an announcement is imminent. The 26-year-old landed with the Mets. His agent, Scott Boras, was on hand for Snell announcement. The chatter is real. Stay tuned. And then also what I do like, because I mean, I don't like it because I feel like they're putting pressure on other teams to up the price. But it tells me that Steve Cohen is the highest offer on the table right now. And Ken Rosenthal came out about 2 hours ago and said the Mets are favorites. And Ken Rosenthal is a legitimate MLB reporter. He's right up there with Jeff Passan. So I think it's on the table. I think he's narrowing it down to the Mets and the Yankees. That's what I think. I think he's narrowing it down to the Mets and the Yankees right now. So we'll only time will tell, but I think we'll know by Friday. Maybe even tonight. Who knows? Maybe tonight. But it's got to happen because these teams, whatever team he signs with, they got to make moves to build around him. He's not going to wait all the way after the winter meetings, into the winter meetings, because in the winter meetings, that's when you make the trades. That's when you add to your roster. And Soto is too good of a player not to sign before the winter meetings because if you get him, you're going to want to build around him. So, and that's another thing. The Mets, they cannot be done with just Juan Soto. I don't think we should be pleased with just Juan Soto. You got to go out there. If you miss out on Alonso, go get Willy Adames. If you missed out on Willy Adames, because I think Willy Adames, you put him at third base, you move Vientos to first. You got an infield, maybe Acuna and McNeil sharing time at second. Lindor, one of the best shortstops in the league, if not the best. First base, you got Vientos, who showed in the playoffs that he's legit. Third base, Willy Adames. I mean, right field, you put Juan Soto there. Left field, you got Brandon Nimmo. Center field, Tyrone Taylor. And what's his name again? Jose Siri, who's got a cannon of an arm, and he's got some pop in his bat. Hit 25 home runs just 2 years ago. So, yeah, you get Juan Soto and a player like Pete Alonso, a player like Willy Adames, maybe even a Teoscar Hernandez, who I do like maybe as a DH option. I think the Mets could really get back to the playoffs next year. and get by the Dodgers, because that's what the goal should be. It should be to get by the Dodgers. Similar to what the Knicks did in the offseason. What did they do? They made moves to beat the best team in the league, and that's the Boston Celtics. The Mets need to make moves to beat the best team in the league, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Get a star-powered lineup. Do it. Make it happen. Make it happen, Steve Cohen. I'm going to be up all night. I'm going to be up all night from these tweets now, because I think that Steve Cohen, what this tells me is he has the highest offer on the table. What do you guys think? Hector, let's hit your comment real quick. Joey. What up, Joey? How you been, man? Rodgers to the bench. Yeah, he is going to the bench. At least I hope in the next few weeks. Hector says, sup, James? How much should Cohen overbid on Soto to satisfy fans? And I don't think Cohen should even do this to satisfy us, because I think he should do it to win. Because I don't think Juan Soto is just, hey, he's going to put butts in seats. Yeah, he's going to put butts in seats. He's going to make the Mets a sellout almost every single night. But at the same time, he's going to help us win next year, the year after that, the year after that, the year after that. I mean, Juan Soto, 26 years old. Mark Vientos, only 25. Turning 26, I believe, at some point next year. But still, those two guys. And then you got Lindor in the prime of his career right now. So next year would be great. You get a guy like 2025 is the year for the Mets if they get Juan Soto. No doubt about it. It's not 2026. It's not 2027, because Lindor's in the prime of his career right now. You want to maximize what you're going to get out of Lindor. And Lindor, as great as he is, he's not going to be able to just, I mean, yes, he did. I take that back. What I was about to say, Lindor can carry the Mets, but it makes his job so much easier if he has a guy like Juan Soto to help him carry the Mets. So I would love to make it happen. Overbid, I think maybe, I would say 35 to 50 million over the highest offer. I think that could get it done. I think that can get it done. I don't even think it needs to be 14, 15, 16 years. I think a 10 or 12-year deal, making him the highest AAV player in the league in history, I think that could get it done. Maybe you got some player options, maybe some probably not team options, most likely player options. But I think you can get him on a 10 or 12-year deal, because that means, let's say you get him on a 10-year deal, 36 years old comes around, he can still get another contract as a DH. Who knows? But whatever it takes, that's what I'm at. I think as at least what we say as Mets fans, we call Steve Cohen King Cohen. I think this is the guy you got to get. This is the guy you got to get. You didn't offer anything for Ohtani. And anybody who wants to say, oh, but look at, like, anybody who says, like, oh, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper. Yeah, but at the same time, Manny Machado is one of the best players in the game. Bryce Harper is one of the best players in the game. Bryce Harper's team has been in the playoffs consistently every single year. So when you got an opportunity to sign a guy like that, and Juan Soto, in my opinion, is better than both those guys, at 26 years old, career 285 hitter, coming off the best season of his career, we know he can play in the big city. You go get him. You go get him. Chosen One Genetics says I'm a moron. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what the M actually stands for. It doesn't stand for Montreal. It stands for moron. Yeah, I appreciate you calling me a moron. But yeah, that's what I would say, Hector. Hector also says, what worries me, if the Mets have put in the highest offer, why hasn't he accepted it? That's what worries me too, because at the little bit, like I said before, I think it's putting pressure on other teams to up the bid. And I think at the end of the day, he probably wants to be a New York Yankee. I mean, we saw it. He went to the World Series last year. He was 3 wins away from putting himself in the history books as one of the greatest Yankees of all time just after 1 season. And I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but that's what happens when you win a World Series with the Yankees. And ultimately, he was not the guy in the postseason. Stanton was the guy in the postseason, but he was the most consistent guy from regular season to postseason. He was that guy. Because Judge fell off in the playoffs. Stanton didn't perform at all. Well, he didn't perform like he did in the playoffs in the regular season. He did play pretty well in the regular season the first half until he got hurt. But I would say, why hasn't he accepted it if they got the highest offer? I think it's just him saying, you know what, Yankees, I'm going to give you a chance to match it. And if you don't, I'm going to the Mets. So that's why I think the Boston reports, oh, remember he signed with the Boston Red Sox 15 times last week on Thanksgiving? I think that was just to say, hey, he's got the highest offer, because it was the same thing. People were saying, oh, he's going to the Red Sox. He's going to the Red Sox. And now we're saying, oh, he's a Met. He's a Met. But yeah, thank you, Hector, for commenting. And speaking of Hector, Hector's got a little thing going on called Blunt Thoughts. Make sure you go check him out on YouTube. Make sure you go check him out on X. Oh, Blunt Thoughts, actually. Yeah, there he is. See, right there, the logo. That's why I think this team, he wants to go to Yankees or Boston. Gets close, he might leave some money on the table. I don't think he's going to leave like 35, 50 million on the table. But if it's like 5, 10 mil, I could see him potentially leave it in on the table. So that's why I think Cohen needs to go 35, 50. So that's what I would say there. If you go extra 35, 50, maybe a few extra years, who knows? Just make him the highest paid player in baseball. That's what I think gets the job done. You make him the highest paid player in baseball, that will get the job done. But I'm taking these reports with a grain of salt. I know this guy, David Lingapore, was with, or David Pingalore, I should say, was with Scott Boras earlier today for the Blake Snell signing. But, you know, I don't know. Let's do it one more time. We'll say it, and then we'll hop on to the next topic. Inquiring Juan Soto minds want to know. I am being told an announcement is imminent for the 26-year-old Landon with the Mets. His agent, Scott Boras, was on hand for the Snell announcement. The chatter is real. Stay tuned. Ken Rosenthal, just a few hours ago, says that the Mets are the current favorites to land Juan Soto. Let's see what happens. We're all waiting for Jeff Passan to break that news. I think we'll know by Friday. But let's hop into this next topic. Next topic, Pete Alonso. Talked about it all offseason. With or without Juan Soto, you need Pete Alonso. With Soto, I think you can make a case even more that you need Pete Alonso, because that puts you right up there with the Dodgers. 29 years old, going to turn 30 on December 7th. 240 last year, 34 home runs, 88 RBIs. That's a down year for him. That's a down year, but every other year, I mean, he's hit 35 plus home runs, 100 plus RBIs. 2019, 53 home runs, 120 RBIs. 2021 actually finished a little bit under 100 RBIs, 94 RBIs, 37 home runs. 2022 career year for him, 40 home runs, led the league, tied with Judge with 131 RBIs, 271 batting average. And then last year, 2023 last year, 46 home runs, 118 RBIs, and then this year 34 home runs, 88 RBIs, 240 batting average. That's considered a down year for him, and we saw what he can do in the playoffs. You can say all you want. Alonso wasn't clutch. Alonso wasn't this. Alonso wasn't that. Alonso's clutch. You're not clutch for regular season walk-off home runs, regular season walk-off doubles, game-clinching RBIs. No. You become clutch in the playoffs, and that's what Pete Alonso did. Pete Alonso's been a career Met. He's only probably a season worth of home runs away from becoming the all-time Mets home run leader. You got to keep a guy like that. Similar to how Steve Cohen kept Brandon Nimmo, how he kept Edwin Diaz, how he made sure Francisco Lindor was going to stay with the Mets after that trade. They got to do the same thing with Pete. You don't let him go. With or without Soto. That's what I'll say there. Other options outside of Pete Alonso. Let's say we do miss out on Pete Alonso. You got Willy Adames out there. Willy Adames is coming off a great year. Just shy of an 800 OPS. Hit over 30 home runs. A little bit over 100 RBIs. He can play short. He can play second. He can play third. He's probably not going to play short. Definitely not going to play short if he comes to the Mets. But he's willing to play third base for the right fit. Why not? Teoscar Hernandez, I think he's another great option. Teoscar Hernandez had a great year with LA. A few years ago, he had another great year. I think Teoscar Hernandez is going to be the dark horse. I think he would be a perfect DH for the Mets. He does want to be a Dodger. He said it at the end. But right now, recent rumors on Teoscar Hernandez. Apparently he could sign with the Toronto Blue Jays, which he is a former Toronto Blue Jay. But right now, the Dodgers, according to Dodgers Nation, they're predicted to re-sign Teoscar Hernandez on a massive 3-year deal. But, I mean, listen, not done yet, so he's still on the table. Last year, 272 batting average, 33 home runs, career high for him. Big second time he made the All-Star team, 840 OPS. In 2023 with Seattle, hit 258, 26 home runs, 93 RBIs. 2022, 25 home runs, 77 RBIs while hitting 267 with a 807 OPS. In 2020 or 2021, 870 OPS with Toronto. I mean, he had them one win away from the postseason. 296 batting average, 32 home runs, 116 RBIs. This guy can hit. This guy can hit. I think he would be a perfect DH. And I think it would also, if you get Soto and you get Teoscar Hernandez, I'm not saying Soto is going to be the full-time DH, but what I'm saying is you can give Soto some days off in right field. You can put Teoscar Hernandez out there, but I think Teoscar Hernandez would be a great DH for the New York Mets. But yeah, pitching options. I love the Frankie Montas signing. I think that's great. Frankie Montas is a guy. One, he's made 27 plus starts for the last 4 seasons. Last 4 years. He hasn't had a great year since 2021, but that was the same thing people were saying about Luis Severino when we signed him. Oh, why you signed Severino? He had a terrible year the year before, and then look what he did. Stearns has this magical pitching lab where they're kind of getting, like, one of the things they do in his pitching lab is they go in a pool and they do their motion in a pool. Like, I don't know, but it helped Severino. It helped Sean Manaea. It helped David Peterson. It helped Drew Smith. Who knows what they're going to do with Drew Smith, but it did help a lot of guys have much better years under the first year of that pitching lab. So I think, now listen, I'm not saying this pitching lab can fix any pitcher, but what I'm saying is Stearns, we all know he's not going to go after that big fish free agent in the starting pitching market. You can get a big fish starting pitcher at the deadline. I mean, we saw the Dodgers do it with Jack Flaherty. I mean, they're still not afraid to go get the big fish free agent as a starting pitcher. They just did it with Blake Snell. They did it with Yamamoto last year. Even the Mets tried to do it with Yamamoto last year, but still. I don't think Corbin Burns or Max Fried is worth a 6-year deal, 150 plus mil. I just don't. Look at the Carlos Rodon contract a few years ago. How's that paying off for the Yankees? And you can say, oh, he won 16 games last year at a 3.97 ERA. He's getting paid over $160 million. You're getting paid like an ace, pitch like an ace. And quite frankly, I don't think Corbin Burns, when we saw his velocity drop this year, we saw a strikeout rate drop this year. It was the first time he had under 200 strikeouts in a long time. Yes, I know he has the Milwaukee ties with David Stearns. I don't care. I don't want Corbin Burns. I don't want Max Fried. Walker Buehler, apparently they have a 2-year, $50 million table on the offer with a player opt out after year 1. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. Maybe you fix him a little bit. Walker Buehler came off a gruesome injury from a few years ago that he had. But he dominated the Mets when he faced them in the playoffs. 1. Career 4.09 ERA in 2024. Oh, wait, that's Frankie Montas' career ERA. Why did his numbers pop up? Walker Buehler's numbers are much better than that. This year he had a 5.38 ERA, but we all know why. He came off the injury. Career 3.27 ERA in 2022, 4.02 ERA. Got hurt that year. 2021, 2.47 ERA, led the league with 33 starts. Finished 4th in Cy Young voting. 2020, across 8 starts, 3.44 ERA. 2019, 3.26 ERA. Across 30 starts. 2.62 ERA in 2018 across 24 starts. And then in 8 games as a reliever. I mean, he wasn't that great, 7.71 ERA. But, majority as a starter, he's been good. So far, I'd say he had 1 bad year. 2022, you could say is a bad year, but he got hurt that year, so I'm not going to hold it against him. But when he's healthy, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. I would not mind a proved deal for Walker Buehler. Because let's be real, Walker Buehler wants that 6-year deal. He wants that 7-year deal, but he ain't going to get it after what he did this year. So I like the idea of getting him on a 2-year, $50 million contract. Frankie Montas, I mean, that give you Buehler, Senga, Peterson, Frankie Montas, who makes start after start after start after start. Knock on wood that he stays healthy for the Mets. Still leaves number 5 open. Maybe you go Sean Manaea. I like the idea of bringing Jose Quintana back. I don't think he's going to be too much money. But the Mets still do need a bullpen. I don't think they should go all out and give a huge contract. We already have Edwin Diaz on a huge contract. I like the idea of bringing back Ryan Stanek. I like the idea of bringing in Clay Holmes, maybe potentially using him as a starter like they said they would. Who knows? But The Mets have a lot of options this offseason, but obviously the biggest ticket out there is Juan Soto. Let me know in the comments, whether you're on X, whether you're on YouTube, who do you think Juan Soto is going to sign with? Do you think we should believe these reports? Do you think that I am taking it the right way, saying that I think his highest offer on the table right now is from the Mets, but I think it's also Scott Boras putting it out there saying, hey, you only got a few days to make this highest offer because right now he wants to go to the Mets because they're offering the most. So good sign, but also bad sign at the same time with these reports coming out. All rumors right now. Jeff Passan still hasn't said anything, but Ken Rosenthal did say just a few hours ago, Mets are the favorites. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. And then we're going to hop into some Knicks talk, maybe a little bit of Yankees. Then we're going to get into my Jets because Garrett Wilson is pissed off right now. So is Breece Hall. And as they should be. Aaron Rodgers, I want him gone. Get the head start, similar to like what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. Look at them now. Yes, they still have a cap hit this year and next year for Russ, but at the end of the day, they ripped off the Band-Aid and they said, screw it. You got to rip off the Band-Aid. Also, Brian Daboll, should they fire him? Joe Schoen, he looks like he's dead. He looks like he's done. But will Brian Daboll come back? Will they draft Shedeur Sanders? Who should they draft if they get that top pick? Should it be Shedeur? I think it should. We're going to be talking about it next on the James Nolan Pod. I'll be right back. Last 80 games of 2023, 284 batting average, 15 home runs, 44 RBIs. If we get that Lindor for a full year, and now I'm not saying last year he didn't have a all year. Look at the numbers. Last year, 2023, Lindor was a top shortstop. He was an all MLB shortstop. 30-30. He was a beast. But in the last 80 games, the second half, that's when Lindor really turned it up. If we get that Lindor for a full season, the Mets are going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. And Lindor will be an MVP candidate. He has MVP potential. I've said it since the Mets have traded for him. Francisco Lindor has the talent, has the ability to win an MVP. He is that good. But he's inconsistent at times. I cannot ignore that. But over the last 80 games of 2023, he was pretty consistent. And he was probably the best, second best, right after Corey Seager. But he was arguably the best shortstop in all of baseball the last 80 games. That's what Lindor can be. And if we get that for a full year, not only will he be an MVP candidate, but the Mets will be in the postseason. He's that good. Lindor is that good. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP, but I've been saying it since we've traded for him. He has it in him. He does have it in him. Last year, undoubtedly his best year. Second half, he was the best shortstop in baseball. We get that for a full year. Mets are going to the playoffs. Let's go over to the DH, and then we'll get into the Yankees. Jorge Soler wants at least 3 years. If he wants 3 years and he's going to get 3 years, stay away from it. Last year, he was great, 30-plus home runs. Probably had the best year of his career. But he's also 31. He's had 11 years. It took him 11 years to have that type of year. I'm not saying that he's going to have that year for the next 3 years. I would stay away. So that gets me into my next guy, J.D. Martinez. I wrote a piece on it just last week. J.D. Martinez is a perfect fit with the Mets. Perfect fit. You got guys like Vientos. You got guys like Beatty. You got guys like Francisco Alvarez. You got all these young guys that you want to have them make an impact for the Mets eventually in the future. Not only can J.D. Martinez help you now, but he's not going to take away at bats from those guys. One. All right, we're back. We're back on the James Nolan Pod. We got over 1,600 of you guys watching right now. A lot of you guys on X. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you just want to go over to YouTube and help out the channel, make sure you go over there. I got the link in the bio on X, got the link in the bio on Facebook. So, yeah, audio version always going to be on Spotify a little bit after. But thank you wherever you're watching. I appreciate all you guys. Yeah, if you want to scroll back a little bit, we talked Juan Soto. I think he would be a great fit with the Mets. What I think about these rumors right now, but the rumors are definitely heating up. And what I do think is that the Mets do have the highest offer on the table. But now let's get into some basketball talk. My New York Knicks, baby, 13-8 now. just beat the Orlando Magic, a very good Orlando Magic this year. The Magic they were 9-1 in their last 10 games headed into tonight. Franz Wagner is having a career year. He's averaging 23.4 points per game. So he ain't no scrub right now. But you look at the box score. I mean, outside of Franz Wagner, I think the Knicks played great. Yes, no Paolo, but I mean, Wagner, he's been playing great. Also, I'm not sure if Moritz Wagner's his brother, but he's also having a pretty good year for the Magic as well. But we're talking about the Knicks, not the Magic. Screw the Magic. Magic suck. Knicks are putting up points, man. 121 points today, 121-106 win over the Magic. On Sunday, they put up 118 against Charlotte. I mean, they were kind of lackadaisical. They were kind of tired. You could tell 99 points only. But even in the loss against the Mavericks, they put up 114 against the Denver Nuggets, a great team like Jokic. They did control Jokic that game as well. They put up 145 points, 106 points against the Jazz, 138 against the Suns, 134 against the Wizards, 114 against the Nets, 124 again against the Nets, 123 against the Bulls, 111 against the Sixers. I mean, the Knicks right now, they have the best offense in the league. I would say they probably have the best starting five in the league. The Celtics are still a better team because they got Tatum, they got Brown, they got a great head coach, they got great depth on that team, and they're just coming off a championship, and they still do look like the best team in basketball. But I think the best starting five in basketball, we can undoubtedly say it's the New York Knicks. I mean, you got your worst starter putting up triple doubles. Josh Hart is their worst starter right now. And I'm not saying anything bad against Josh Hart. But Josh Hart's their worst starter right now in 38 minutes tonight, 11 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. I can't say enough about Josh Hart. Josh Hart is built for this city. He is built for this team. He is balls to the wall 24/7. Finished with a plus 18 tonight, triple-double. Going into tonight, Josh Hart was averaging 13.9 points per game, which is the highest of his entire career outside of 2021 through 2022 when he was with the Trailblazers. And he put up 19.9 points per game, but that was only a 13-game stint after getting traded there. OG Anunoby having a career year for the Knicks going into tonight, 17.4 games on 48% shooting, 37% from behind the arc tonight, 32 minutes, 18 points. And when you got OG Anunoby scoring like that, that's a great sign. And he's been so much, knock on wood right now, but OG Anunoby has been healthy. 7 of 10 from field today. He finished with 4 of 7 from behind the arc with a plus 21. OG Anunoby playing great this year. You got to love to see it. Cat, our big man, probably I would say the best trade so far in Knicks history, maybe. I know Melo was great, but I mean, at this point where the Knicks were at, they want to be finals contenders. I think this could end up being one of the best trades in Knicks history if they cap it off with what we all want. And that's something I don't even want to say because I don't even want to put that on him. I don't want to jinx him. 23 points tonight in 35 minutes, 15 rebounds. I mean, this is a guy who we've seen him with the Timberwolves, like just the past few seasons. He's been kind of dying. He was trending down. You can't lie. After a 2019 through 2020 season where he averaged 26.5 points per game, you know, we thought Cat was going to be all great, but then the 2020 to 2021 season, only 24.8 points per game with only 10.6 rebounds, 9.8 rebounds the next year with only 24.6, 20.8 in 2022 through 2023 with 8.1 rebounds per games. Rebounds per game in 2023 through 2024, 8.3 points per game that year, which was just last year, 21.8. But this year, a huge jump in 19 games right now, 25.2 points going into today. 13 rebounds per game. That's going to go up after today's 15 rebound performance. Blocks per game. I'd still like to see more blocks, but he's not a shot blocker. We all know that. And then he's shooting going into today. He was shooting 46% from behind the arc. Today, he took 2 of 5 threes, made 2 of them, shot 40% from 3 tonight. And I mean, 47% from 3, 20 games in. That's insane. And this year he's shooting 53% from the field going into today. And from the field today, he finished 8 of 18. And he also finished with a plus 25. And he's all over the boards on the offensive end, on the defensive end. I mean, Cat is putting in the effort. We all knew that when he came here, I mean, yes, it was a big story. Why? Because he wanted to be in New York for the longest. He grew up a Knick fan, just like Jalen Brunson, just like Carmelo Anthony. He wanted to be a Knick. And it was kind of similar to Melo, where Melo, yes, he was great with Denver, but he just played with so much more energy, it felt like, in his first year with the Knicks. And now I'm not saying that he didn't the next few years, but you could just tell he loved New York. Brunson, same thing, comes to New York, loves New York. Cat loves New York. Josh Hart loves New York. Mikal Bridges, I mean, you can even say he loves New York too. So Mikal Bridges, another great performance tonight. He's been heating up 19 points tonight. On Sunday, 31-point performance against Charlotte. I mean, everybody sucked against Charlotte for the Knicks, but 20 points against Dallas. I mean, Mikal Bridges, yes, slow start to the season, but now that we're 20 games in, I can confidently say I am happy Mikal Bridges is on the Knicks. I'm happy. And his defense is only going to get better. I mean, he was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation almost year in and year out. So, Mikal, he's only going to get better. 8 of 13 from the field tonight, 2 of 6 from 3. He finished overall with a plus 33, the best on the Knicks tonight. 35 minutes of work for him, 5 assists too. And then Jalen Brunson, man. Jalen Brunson is playing a lot different this year. 8 of 15 from the field, played much better in the second half than he did in the first half tonight. Finished with 21 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists in 26 minutes of work. And that's a huge stat for me because I don't want to burn out Brunson. Brunson's only averaging 34.5 minutes per game. If you can keep that, I'd love that. I think having Karl Anthony-Towns this year is really showing us that Jalen Brunson is a true point guard. Yes, he can pick his spots and he can still go off and he can still put up those numbers, that he can still put up those 30-point games. But Jalen Brunson, the pressure has been taken off him. Going into tonight, 7.9 assists per game, the most he's had in his entire career, 25.4 points per game. So he's still scoring. And then he's shooting 41% going into tonight. He was shooting 41% from behind the arc, 49% from the field. Tonight, 8 of 15 from the field, and then 1 of 3 from 3. Brunson finished with a plus 24 in his 26 minutes of work. So Brunson's still that guy. And now that he has Cat, I mean, I heard Kevin Garnett on his podcast with Paul Pierce the other day saying that Cat and Julius Randle have a lot of similarities. He's out of his mind. He obviously hasn't. Maybe he watched a lot of Karl Anthony-Towns and a few great games of Julius Randle, but there is no similarities for me. Karl Anthony-Towns is a better shooter. He's a more efficient shooter. When he has the ball, I know a lot of us aren't losing our minds because he's not going to dribble backwards into the defender 500 times and then get stripped. He knows how to read a double team. And also, he's not just demanding the ball. He's not demanding the ball like Randall did at times. So nothing against Randall, but Miles McBride and Cam Payne, those two guys locked up depth. Yes, huge. Miles McBride has been playing great this year. 18 points tonight in 25 minutes of work. So far going into tonight, 10.9 points per game. Shooting 47% from the field going into tonight. Shooting 41% from 3 going into tonight. Made 5 threes out of his 7 attempts tonight. Out of his 11 attempts from the field, only 5 of them were in, all threes. But McBride, I mean, that's what we need to do. We need him to come off the bench, play great defense, and knock down those threes. Cam Payne, I mean, what an addition. What an addition. In 17.8 minutes per game going into tonight, he was averaging 8.3 points per game, 3.4 assists per game on 44% from behind the arc, 44% from the field overall. Taking a lot of threes, but, I mean, that's what we brought him here to do. 1 and 2 from the field behind the arc tonight. Against New Orleans just a few nights ago, 2 of 4 from 3. Against Charlotte just a few nights ago, 2 of 4 from 3. I mean, he's consistently knocking down threes. I mean, so far, he's had 1 game since November 12th where he has not hit a 3. Cam Payne has been a huge addition for the Knicks, but we still need more. Precious Achiuwa still out with an injured hamstring, but he did practice with the G League squad today, so that's a great sign. We could really use his defensive prowess. And you know what? We saw him. Tibbs was kind of hesitant to go to him at times last year, but the more that Precious played, the more trust he earned from Tibbs. So I think we'll see a lot more Precious, especially since we need him. Mitch, I mean, he's probably not going to be coming back till 2025 at least right now, but he would be huge. But even without Mitch, I still think the Knicks need to add another big man. I still think they need another shot blocker. I think that's what's missing for the Knicks right now. Because going into tonight, we can actually check out their team stats. Their updated team stats right now. 7th in points per game, top 10 offense. 3-point field goal percentage, or second, knocking down 39.3% as a team. But this is where they're hurting. Well, let's go over to the positive stats, and then we'll get into the bad ones. Offensive rating, they're first with 122.9 offensive rating, which is great. Turnovers, the turnovers have been limited so much this year. It's a big factor not having Julius Randle turn the ball over 5 times a game. But they're only averaging 11.7 turnovers per game, which is 4th in the NBA. That's great. But here's where we're hurting. Rebounds, 23rd in rebounds with 42.8 a game. Offensive rebounds, 21st. That's where we miss Mitch. So yeah, it's really just rebounding and defense that the Knicks need. Like I said before, I think Bridges is going to get better defensively as the year goes on. I mean, he's Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I think it's going to happen at some point. He's going to be that lockdown defender that we all know he can be. And with Anunoby, having him, we should realistically be locking down wings. That's what we should be doing, and I think we're going to get that, especially since Tibbs is coaching this team. It's definitely shocking that they're scoring all this points under Tibbs, but at the same time, it's not. Look at their starting 5. Josh Hart, everybody in their starting 5 is averaging double figures. Even Miles McBride is averaging double figures. Cam Payne is just a few points shy of averaging double figures. This team can freaking score. If the opposing team has a bad defensive night, the Knicks are going to win. And that's something we couldn't say in the past. Because last year, what was their offense? It was Jalen Brunson. That's it. It was Jalen Brunson. This year, it's Brunson. It's Hart. Obviously, Cat too. It's Mikal Bridges heating up. OG Anunoby taking a big step forward on the offensive end. Miles McBride, he's gained the trust of Tom Thibodeau for sure. Cam Payne, great offensive player too. So what do we need? We need defense. Which trade should they make? I don't know. I still think it's too early to tell who they should acquire, but they should definitely acquire somebody. We still got a few picks left. Talked about it on the last pod. We can't get Dante DiVincenzo, so we just can't. But we did talk about that in the last pod, what the Knicks could use to trade to get a bench piece to kind of substitute what Devo provided us. But I don't even think they need to substitute what Devo provided us based off what they're doing this year. I don't. Listen, having a player like Devo was great. But at the same time, what do we need more? We need rebounding and defense. We don't need more offense. We need defense. So the Knicks got to go out there and add to that defense. They just got to do it. They got to do it. Find someone to help out Cat with the shot blocking. I mean, it would be great if we can get an actual center, a starting center. Yes, Mitch, when he comes back, I think we can make a case for him to join the starting lineup and bump Josh Hart to the bench. I'm not saying Josh Hart should average less than 30 minutes a night, but having him come off the bench would be a huge plus for the Knicks. And then giving Cat the opportunity to play power forward where he can really thrive, I think. He can score in the paint, but he can also score from really all over the court on offense. So I would love to see him, but I really want to talk about Josh Hart because Josh Hart, I think everybody says Brunson's the key. Everybody says Cat's the key. OG, I think he can keep it up. McCall, like I said before, he's going to get better. But I think Josh Hart is really the key this year. Because if Josh Hart is doing what he's doing, if he's scoring 13.9 points per game, playing great defense, averaging 8.4 rebounds per game at 6'4", shooting 59% from the field, that's insane. Knocking down 38% of his three-point attempts, that's insane, especially for him. I mean, he's not a guy who's a three-point shooter. He's taking smart shots. He's just taking smart shots. So I think Josh Hart is really the key for the Knicks this year. I think that's it. If we get this production out of Josh Hart all year, the Knicks are going to finish at the 2 seed at the very least. But we need more if we want to get past the Boston Celtics, because the Boston Celtics, they're who we got to get past. And we just beat a very good Orlando Magic team tonight. So I think it's a great sign. Group play, maybe we get that NBA Cup. Who knows? It would be great, but we all know what we really want. We get a shot at redemption for the Charlotte Hornets. Even though we did beat them, we should have beat up on them. We got them Thursday night, 7:30. So let's see what they can do. But the Knicks, I think they look really good, man. I think they look really good. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the Knicks this year. Their offense is absolutely insane. Thanks, Pops. You brought up the Jets. Let's talk about these Jets. Shout out Pops who got me this helmet. I don't know how you got it, man, but you got it. Garrett Wilson, Jets helmet. This thing's awesome. I hope Garrett Wilson doesn't want to go. If anybody's going to go, it's got to be Aaron Rodgers. Connor Hughes came out with a report today. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are pissed. He didn't say it like that, but he basically said they're pissed. And as they should be. You look at this Jets offense that put up 21 points in the first half. We're thinking, oh, man, maybe we can make a case now that Aaron Rodgers should come back for year 3. No, No, get rid of Aaron Rodgers, cut the ties. Maybe you get a reclamation project like the Vikings did with Sam Darnold. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't, as much as I would love to have Sam Darnold, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's going to get a Baker Mayfield-like contract. And with the Jets, they're going to have a cap hit no matter what next year, with or without Aaron Rodgers, for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think we can really afford a Sam Darnold. It would be great. Don't get me wrong. I don't want Jameis Winston. I've heard that name thrown out there. I think the best option as a bridge quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. We got him on the roster right now. He's not a big cap hit. He can start in the NFL. He's won games with the Bills. He's won games with the Giants. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He's a smart quarterback. You give him Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Maybe I would love to keep Devontae Adams. I'm not sure if he wants to stick around if Rodgers goes. But you know what? That's not up to him. It's up to the Jets. And if the Jets are winning, I mean, he was pissed with the Raiders because they weren't winning. If they're winning next year, who knows? But I think Rodgers has been the problem. You could say it was Greg the Leg the first few games when he was missing all those field goals, but it's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, 100. Let's take a look at his last few games. Just really his whole entire game log overall. He hasn't thrown for over 300 yards all year. All year. He was supposed to be the guy, and he just quite frankly hasn't. Yes, in the first half he played great, but he also threw a pick that kind of cost us. 21-39 his last game, 185 passing yards. Against Indianapolis, only 184 passing yards. Against Arizona, 151 passing yards. Against Houston, 211. New England, 233. Against Pittsburgh, 276, but he also threw 2 picks that game. Against Buffalo, 294, most he had this year, but he also threw a pick that did cost us that game, and he couldn't get us in the end zone, and he blamed it on Mike Williams after. That was New England game, actually. Against Minnesota, only 244, and that was on 54 passing attempts. He's thrown the ball a lot. 225 against Denver, over 42 passing attempts, 281 against New England. That was the game we won. Then against Tennessee, only 176. Aaron Rodgers isn't the old Aaron Rodgers. And that's nothing against Aaron Rodgers. When he was in his prime, he was one of the best quarterbacks in football. But he's 41 years old now, man. He's 41 years old. I loved when we got him. Last year was the year. Unfortunately, that's it. Last year was the year. We had the best defense in the league. We were 7-4 at one point. If we got to the playoffs and Rodgers was able to come back, maybe we do some in the playoffs. But last year was the year for Aaron Rodgers to win a Super Bowl in New York. He's just washed up now. Coming off an Achilles injury, he's just not the same quarterback. He's not moving around. Yes, he had a great block in the first half. He was moving around, making some plays out of the pocket in the first half. But we saw what happened in the second half. He got shut down. Rodgers is done, man. Maybe he goes to another team. I don't think he's going to want to end his career on such a bad note like this. But the Jets, they don't need Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers needs the Jets more than the Jets need Aaron Rodgers. That's what I'll say to Aaron Rodgers. But God forbid, we cannot lose Garrett Wilson. We cannot lose Breece Hall. And Sauce Gardner, I was ripping him a lot in the last few pods. I think he can bounce back. All he has to do is learn how to go low and tackle, add on a few pounds. But I think what does suck is we still haven't seen Jordan Travis play. So I don't even know if I want to – I don't know if the Jets – I'm not saying Jordan Travis is going to be the franchise guy if he gets such opportunity, but he had great college stats. I would love to see him get an opportunity, but that's the part that sucks. We're probably not going to see Jordan Travis. Drafting Olu Fashanu, I think that was a great draft choice. Passing up on Brock Bowers, screw it. I mean, we got a left tackle. Brock Bowers is on the Raiders. How many wins do the Raiders have? Do we really think Brock Bowers will get the Jets to the Super Bowl this year? Come on, guys. As great as he is, do we really think he would be the key piece to a Super Bowl? So I hate when people say, oh, you passed on Brock Bowers. I don't care. I don't care. You have Olu at left tackle. You got Joe Tippmann at center. You got right guard locked up with that Elijah Vera Tucker. Starting, yes, we need more depth on the offensive line, but we really just now need a left guard and a right tackle and then add depth. O-line solved right there. We got receivers. Garrett Wilson is a beast. Devontae Adams, they can keep him. Running backs, I mean, Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, love it. I think Breece Hall's got to get a deal soon. I would give him like a 3-4 year deal at the end of this season. Just because he deserves it. And I think we would kind of save money in the long run if we give him a deal at the end of this year. Also, defensive-wise, I mean, I think we can still get back to where we were a year ago with a few key additions. Maybe retain DJ Reed. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so it's going to be tough to see him go, but I would love to bring him back if the money's right. Sauce Gardner, I want to keep, obviously. But yeah, even like we got Quinnen, we got Quincy, we got Mosley still. Like, you know, we got guys on this defensive team. Jermaine Johnson should be coming back. Will McDonald has played great this year. Like, our defense can be good still. We just need to add depth again. So the key for the Jets, I think, is obviously head coaching. That's number one. And number two, draft-wise, I think we go for a quarterback. There's a lot of good. Now, listen, I don't think the Jets are going to end up with like a Cam Ward or a Shadur Sanders, but maybe a Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. Maybe the Texas kid, Quinn Ewers. Like, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft. A lot. And you know what? Rookie quarterbacks, they can win. And we won't have the expectation of a Super Bowl next year. I just want to win. I just want to win 8, 9 games. I want to win 10 games, man. That's what I don't even care about Super Bowls anymore with the Jets. With the Mets, I want to see a championship. With the Knicks, I want to see a championship. With the Jets, I just want to see some winning football games, man. Because for the past, I feel like decade, the Jets, they don't even look like a football team. They don't look like they play football. They have a great quarter or two, and then they suck. Oh, man. I mean, realistically, looking back on it, they got rid of Geno Smith. Geno Smith's lighting it up. Well, he beat us last week, and he lit it up the past 2 years with Seattle. He's got them in a potential playoff spot. Sam Darnold leaves the Jets, rewrites his career, learns a lot with Sean McVay and the Rams, bounces to Carolina, goes to the Niners. Well, actually, he didn't go to the Rams. I went to the Niners. But now he's lighting up. 9-2 with the Vikings. Like, it sucks, man. It really does suck. And even Todd Bowles with Tampa Bay, man. We let go of Todd Bowles as the head coach a few years ago of one bad year, even though we went 10-6 one year and we were a game out of the playoffs with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Let go of Todd Bowles. Look at him right now. Super Bowl champion with Tampa Bay as DC. Now he's a head coach. He got the Bucs to the playoffs last year with Baker. Might get the Bucs to the playoffs again with Baker. So the Jets just suck. It's sad. I really don't even like talking about them. There's really not that much to talk about. So keep Breece Hall, keep Garrett Wilson, and then everybody else can go. I would like Sauce Gardner and Jermaine Johnson and Quentin Williams, obviously, and Will McDonald to say. But offensively, I mean, give me the 3 linemen that are young. Give me Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. I would love Devontae back, like I said before. I mean, as a number 2, I think he would be a really good number 2. But Jets need a quarterback, man. Jets need a quarterback badly. And we're going to talk about the top quarterbacks in the draft, but let's take a look at quarterbacks that the Jets could potentially draft. Because right now, the NFL draft order, let's say season ended today. Right now, Jacksonville's got the number 1 overall, Las Vegas, number 2, Giants, number 3, all 2-10 teams. Jets right now, they're lined up for a top 6 pick. Keep losing, honestly. Keep losing. I don't even want to see them win. I don't care if they win. I don't care if they lose. I'd rather them lose. Get me a top 6 pick. Because right now, Cleveland and Tennessee both have 3-9 records, so they could always jump over us if we win one of those games. But I think the Jets will end up with a top 10 pick for sure. And I do think that they can get a top QB. Because there's a lot of good QBs. So let's take a look at some of the QBs that I think are a realistic option for the Jets to land. I do love Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. Obviously, I love Shadur. Shadur is probably my favorite. He's been the most consistent quarterback in college football this year. Jalen Milroe, I think, could also be an option. Carson Beck could be an option. I mean, those are good quarterbacks. Right now, ESPN currently has Cam Ward going number 1. They got Shadur going number 2 out of the quarterbacks. Let's take a look at some others, though, because ESPN always – there's ESPN. But Let's take a look at some of these guys. Carson Beck, I mean, he kind of regressed from 2023, but, he's still a good quarterback with Georgia. I would love to see him get an opportunity in an NFL team, but I would kind of shy away from him because I think the Georgia, they just got stud linemen, and what do the Jets not have? They don't have stud linemen. I like the idea of a Jalen Milrow, a guy who can move. He can really run. He can run. And we see it all the time now. Athletic QBs are the bread and butter of the NFL. Yes, a strong arm helps. Jalen Milrow does have a strong arm, one, and he can run. Look at all the quarterbacks. What do they all have in common that are great? Pat Mahomes, strong arm, he can move around. Josh Allen, strong arm, he can really move around. Lamar Jackson, great pass thrower, great arm, he can really move around. Baker Mayfield even, he can move around. He's got maybe not the strongest arm out of the next other three guys I mentioned, but he can move around. He's got an arm. Even Trevor Lawrence, you want to bash Trevor Lawrence all you want. He's a 4,000-yard passer for the past 2 years. I really hope he's okay. It does look like he's okay. He was able to walk off not walk off the field, but walk out of the stadium after that big hit, which is also not just on that defensive guy. I forgot his name off the top of my head, Aziz, of Houston. But at the same time, Trevor Lawrence can't be sliding like that. NFL has to have some serious discussions about the sliding rule for the quarterbacks. But Trevor Lawrence, he's got a strong arm. He can move around. You look at Brock Purdy, good arm. He can move around. You look over at Denver, Bo Nix, good arm. He can move around. Jaden Daniels with Washington, strong arm. He can move around. So I do really love the idea of drafting a guy like Jalen Milrow. I love the idea of drafting a guy like Jalen Milrow. And you can say all you want, Alabama quarterbacks. But Jalen Hurts, another guy. Speaking of Alabama quarterbacks, strong arm, he can move around. So CJ Stroud, strong arm, he can move around. And I hate when people say Alabama quarterbacks don't translate well. What about Jalen Hurts? What about Tua Tagovailoa? Mac Jones just a few years ago with the Patriots. He got to the playoffs. And he didn't look too bad with the Jaguars when he came in. Alabama quarterbacks, you say what you want about them. They can be good. Jalen Milrow, 21 years old. This year he's got 15 passing touchdowns, 2,652 yards, only 10 interceptions, 7th in QBR rating this year with an 82.9. But when you really look at his numbers, what pops out to me is the rushing. This guy can move. Let's take a look at his rushing stats. This year, rushing the ball, he's got 719 rushing yards, 20 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 59.9 yards per game, rushing-wise. This is the guy I want. I want Jalen Milrow. I want to have some fun. I want to see what he can do with this offense. He can throw the ball down the field if he needs to. He can move around in the pocket. He's big. He's strong. I want Jalen Milrow. I want him. That's what I want. If we don't get Jalen Milrow, I would say Dylan Gabriel is another great option out of Oregon, 23 years old, only 5'11", 201. So he's not that tall, but we also see Baker Mayfield having some success, and he's not that tall. Jalen Hurts, another guy. Bo Nix, he's not that tall. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2". Brock Purdy. But this year leads the NCAA in completions with 275 and completion percentage. Led it last year in 2023 with 69.3, 73.5 this year in 2024. 24 passing touchdowns this year, led the NCAA with 30 passing touchdowns last year. And he hasn't thrown more than 7 interceptions in a single college season. And what I do like about him is his age. He's 23 years old. We see it right now. Bo Nix, 24 years old. Stayed in college for a little bit, found success. So I would love Dylan Gabriel. I think he's going to be the steal. I think he could be a really good quarterback in the NFL. He reminds me a lot of Baker Mayfield when he was in college. Not so much playing, they do have some similar play styles, but just the completion percentage, the accuracy, not turning the ball over. He's a spitting image in my mind of Baker Mayfield. And say what you want about Baker when he's with the Browns, when he was with Carolina, but what is he doing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now? Took him to the playoffs last year, might take him to the playoffs again this year. So those are the two guys I would say the Jets have a realistic shot at getting and that they should get. Like I said before, Carson Beck, yes, good in college, but I don't think it's going to translate to the NFL. But then again, who am I? And then another guy you got to look at is Quinn Ewers of Texas, 21 years old. So he's still very young, 6'2", 209, a little bit bigger than a guy like Dillon Gabriel. This year, Quinn Ewers, 7 interceptions, 24 passing touchdowns, 2,307 yards, 71.4 QBR, which is 32nd in NCAA this year. But he's also a guy who can kind of move around a little bit, not too much. Not too much, but I mean, he can move around out of the pocket, but he's not going to break away like Jalen Milroe would. He actually has negative 35 rushing, but that's also because of some sacks and some bad plays overall. Like he's just not a good rusher. He's just not. That's not who he is. So Quinn Ewers, I would also stay away from. I would really go after Dillon Gabriel or Jalen Milroe from the Jets. I think they would be great fits for the Jets. But Jalen Milroe, definitely my number 1. And my number 2 would be Dillon Gabriel. Now let's get into the Giants option. Giants, they'll have more options than the Jets. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. I think it's just those two. Like, those two are undoubtedly the best quarterbacks, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinions. But I think Shedeur Sanders makes the most sense. We'll get into Cam Ward in a little bit, but Shedeur Sanders I want to start off with, because Shedeur, you put him in that offense with Malik Neighbors, putting the ball down the field. That's what he loves to do. He also is leading the league in completion percentage, leading the league in passing touchdowns, leading the league in passing yards, 3,926 yards this year, 74.2 completion percentage, 35 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. He's a pocket passer that can also move out of the pocket. I mean, he's not like Jalen Milroe where he's going to break out and run for 90 yards, but four rushing touchdowns last year. He's a guy when he can use his legs. And you get a guy like Shedeur, I think he makes a case to keep Brian Daboll, because Brian Daboll loved Josh Allen, obviously. And I think Shedeur is, I'm not saying he's Josh Allen, but you know what? He can move. He's got a big body. He's got a very strong arm. He's not afraid to throw it. So, yeah, there are some similarities for sure. I mean, everybody has their differences, but there's some similarities there for sure. And like I said before, with Malik Neighbors, I think you could really thrive putting that ball down the field, get Malik Neighbors the ball. I mean, and they need a big personality guy, because the Giants for too long, they haven't had somebody with a big personality. Even Eli, he wasn't a big personality. They need someone who's going to come in that locker room and bring energy day in and day out. And I think Shedeur Sanders could be that guy. I don't think you pair him up with Deion Sanders. I think that would be like the Kardashians, It would be more of a drama series with the Giants, and just the Giants just go out there and win. But Shedeur Sanders, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense for the Giants to go out there and draft Shedeur Sanders, get that number 1 pick, get your guy. Cam Ward, 22 years old, a little bit more experience in college. He's played 3 years rather than Shedeur Sanders only played 2. 36 passing touchdowns right now to only 7 interceptions, 4,123 yards. I don't know why I was saying that Shedeur Sanders was leading the league when Cam Ward has better numbers, but I guess that's what Football Reference sometimes does for the NCAA. But yeah, I mean, 4,123 yards, 36 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions with Miami. And then rushing wise, 196 yards. He's got 4 touchdowns. Last year he had 8. Like, why not? I think Cam Ward is another great option. I think he's the second best quarterback in this draft, 67.4 completion percentage. Like, similar to Shedeur Sanders, he's not afraid to throw that ball down the field. Both of them have cannons. They have cannons. But if they get one of those two guys, I could definitely make a case for Brian Daboll sticking around. Joe Schoen's got to go, though. Joe Schoen has to go. I mean, he's been terrible. He paid Daniel Jones. You let Saquon walk. And that's the biggest thing I think they messed up on. You can say all you want that, but Saquon wouldn't have had the year he's having with the Philadelphia Eagles. But guess what? What did Saquon do in 2022 when he was healthy? Took the Giants to the playoffs. It wasn't Daniel Jones who threw for 15 passing touchdowns. It was Saquon Barkley. Yes, he wouldn't be the all-time potential leading rusher like he might this year in a single season. They might bring it in Giants Stadium. Well, MetLife Stadium, or I should say. I'm not going to curse. Aaron Rodgers, though, he made me curse on a few pods. He's the only one all 2024 to make me curse on a podcast so far, Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not going to let Joe Schoen do that and MetLife Stadium do that. But Joe Schoen's got to go. He's got to go. Terrible picks. Evan Neal sucks. He is terrible. This O-line in general is just terrible. Outside of Andrew Thomas, who's hurt right now, who do the Giants have? Year in and year out, it's the same thing. Giants' offensive line sucks. They suck. So, Joe Schoen's got to go. I mean, he let Julian Love go. He let Xavier McKinney go. Like, they could have had a really good defense if they kept one out of two of those guys. He's got to go, man. He's got to go. And even with the defense that they had, Shane Bowen, get him out of here too. He had a loaded defense with Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Azeez Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau, who's been hurt these past few games. But like they have guys on the defensive end. And then Deonte Banks, I think that's another fumble of a pick by Joe Schoen. Maybe it's the coaching that can't get him going. Who knows? But Joe Schoen, he's got to go. He has to go. But yeah, Giants, Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, and maybe you keep Brian Daboll. If you don't keep Brian Daboll, I mean, maybe you got to consider Deion, which is crazy of me to say, but I just don't think it would be good. I don't think it would be good. I think Deion's a college coach. He's a recruiter. He's a team builder rather than a mastermind. He knows a lot about football, yes, but I just don't think he's NFL material coach. I think he's a perfect college coach. He's a perfect college coach. So, and his other son is also still at Colorado, potentially for another year, because I don't think he's going to get drafted after this year. But yeah, Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. That's what the Giants got to get. Jets, I think Dylan Gabriel or Jalen Milroe. All right, that's it for the pod today. Thank you guys for watching. Right now we have over 1,740 of you watching. If you're on X, maybe like it, maybe retweet it. We'll get that 1,744 views up. If you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, man. Why not? Help a kid out. Help a kid out. All right, I'm out of here. Good night, guys. Thank you for all of you, whether you're watching on X, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate all of you guys. Shout out to the guys commenting. Pops, thank you for the Jets helmet. Hector, make sure you go check out Blunt Thoughts. He's on X. He's on YouTube. He's got great Mets contact. Mets season ticket holder. He knows a lot about the Mets. Make sure you go watch him. There's nobody that I know that watches the Mets more than heck. So make sure you go watch him. CP, make sure you go check out CP because he had an interesting tweet earlier. And like I said before, when we were talking about the Mets and Juan Soto, he just doesn't do clickbait stuff. So maybe he knows something. I don't know. But like I said, he's not an MLB insider, but he wouldn't just put that out there. So what do you guys also make of that Juan Soto rumor with the Mets? Do you think that he will sign with the Mets, or do you think that this is just being put out there to drive the price up from other teams? Who knows? Who knows? But I'm hoping by the end of Friday, Juan Soto will be a New York Met. And my bold prediction is Juan Soto will be a New York Met come tomorrow morning. That's what I'll say. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you for all you watching. I love all you. Deuces.